Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Narratives, a show brought to you by Zoho, where we sit down with innovators, creators, and leaders who are shaping the future of work, money, and technology. Today, we are joined by someone who has truly redefined what modern financial empowerment can look like. Lamide Elizabeth is a finance educator, creator, and global property investor whose transparent approach to wealth building has inspired thousands. Lamide, we are so excited to have you. I've been actually going through a lot of your past podcasts, and I was really driven by the last 2025 podcast that you talked about, and you did a solo, which actually in where you talk about how you have now started hating airports, or perhaps airports have started hating you back. So tell me, how has it been traveling between countries? You mentioned UK, Dubai, South Africa. So how is that going for you?
Oh my God. So the past couple of years, I think in the last 2 years, I've lived in 3 countries. So it's hectic, but I really love it because I think that every country brings something different. And so that's what I like. So like Dubai is great. I love Dubai. The people that you meet, the city, everything. But then sometimes when I'm here, there's like so much going on that I'm like, okay, let me go back to London, because then in London I have like family, friends, but also I can because it's cold, you have an excuse not to go out, so I can just stay home and be fine. And then in South Africa, like, cost of living is so cheap. Like, it's so cheap. So every place that I've been in sort of brings something different, but also just in generally, like, as a podcaster now, my podcast is about building wealth without borders. I travel to different places to get different people's stories. So in terms of how it's been fun. It's been enlightening. It allows me to get the best of like both worlds, as they say, but then it gets tiring. Like, it really, like, my ideal would be like if I could just like teleport from like one place to the other and not have to go through security and then waiting in the lounge, and then oh my God, that part is like very, very draining. But the ability to just be in different places, I absolutely love.
Amazing, because I heard you say that you almost took 30 flights.
Yes.
And that number just stayed with me because I was like, I am going to get to ask her, how on earth was that even possible? How much time were you in air? And these are long flights from Dubai. So 9 hours to South Africa. How many more hours to UK?
Yeah, but it was even just more than that. It was like going to the US and then like traveling in between places. Like, oh my God, yeah, like 30 flights. It was a lot. What was your question again?
So you took 30 flights in a year.
Yeah.
And how are you managing everything on ground and still being so many hours up in the air?
What happens? That's why you definitely like need either like a team or some sort of software or tech to like support you whilst you're doing the crazy stuff. Because honestly, it's not even just like the time of like traveling, it's also like the body reset that you have to go through when you're like switching time zones. Like, it's a lot. Absolutely. It's a lot. It wreaks havoc. Like, even I just came from like a couple of weeks ago now, but from UK to Dubai, and like it's 4 hours difference, which you may not feel like it's a lot, but like I usually wake up at 5 a.m. in the UK. So then now being here, it's like, it's so hard because I want to keep the same routine, but it's like, because 4 hours makes a huge difference. So it's very difficult on your body as well. But I think I'm just running off the adrenaline of like, I'm just really loving life right now. So I'm just like, you know what, if this is the cost of it, because like when you're younger and then like you go to these events and they're like, I remember I used to go to like these career conferences and then people be like, let's say like as a consultant, you get to travel. And I'm like, I want to travel as part of my job. It was so cool. So like, I don't want to be in a place now where I'm like, I'm hating the thing that
you always ask for.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, you know what? It's a lot and I'm sick of the airports, but let me still be grateful.
Absolutely. Grateful is the word, Lamide. We go with that. Let's take a step back. We now know Lamide Elizabeth is a growing name in the space of tech, finance, entrepreneurship, property management, investing. But one step back to where it all started. Was there a calling that says, yes, this is where I belong?
Ooh, that's a really good question. You know what? I'm going to say like not really because when I was growing up, all I wanted to do was work in finance. Like I thought like that was going to be my ticket out and that was what I was going to love, just being a woman in finance. And I don't know if you watched what is it with Olivia Pope? Scandal? Have you watched Scandal? Yeah. So like I loved Olivia Pope and how she would wear her suits and her heels and walk around. I was like, I want to be her. So I want to be in finance and stuff. So actually my life now it's not what I pictured 10 years ago, but maybe what I pictured like 2 to 3 years ago. So in a short space of time, it's changed quite a bit.
Right. So this is also coming from humble beginnings. I understand that a lot of them have this misconception, which says that you can only be into the space of finance and let your finance grow if you have already had money that you make. Either you're making a lot of money or you're coming from a wealthy family to, passed on generation of wealth. But how did it go for you? I know you come from humble beginnings in UK, and it was about your mom supporting your education, going to private school. And then from there, it was never looking back. So what message do you want to give out to girls, women especially, or anyone for that matter, about stepping into the world of finance? Because everyone's afraid of numbers. Oh, no, investing is not what I can get into. Oh, I need someone else to take care of it. Maybe a lot of them put it on their partners.
Yeah.
That, maybe, when my spouse says so, or, oh, he's the one looking into it. So what is your message? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, such a good question. And I think that one of the things you have to realize with numbers is that it runs so much of what we do, of our every single day life, like numbers, money factors into it. And so when people try to remove themselves from that responsibility, like it's still affecting you. You just don't know. And especially in the case with like women where they're kind of like, oh, like that's a man's job and stuff. But like we know already from the statistics, it says that, finances are a key reason why people divorce. And that doesn't exclude relationships where the man is the one that's providing, right? Those people are also included. And even just in general, if you look at history, because like I studied economic history, a lot of women had to stay in situations that they didn't want to be in because they didn't have access to finances. Absolutely. And so I think that for me, it's super important that everyone takes some level of ownership over money and over finances, because unfortunately we live in a world that is largely run by finances, right? And really and truly, if you don't want money to control you, if you don't want numbers and finances to control you, the best thing to do is to have a grip over your finances, over the numbers. That's the only way where it doesn't control you. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't care about numbers, I don't care about finances, because they think that by acting like it's not important, it's not going to influence their lives. But usually those people are the people who are most impacted by money. They don't have the financial freedom. They aren't able to go after the things they want because of money. Absolutely. And so if you want to have agency over your life, over how you live, regardless of whether you're, a daughter, a partner, a husband, or whatever, if you want to have agency over your life, it's so important to have some level of control over finances and over money, because it just runs so much.
We are now talking about wealth management, property investments, moving countries. But all this started with a small baby steps that led you to what you made as choices in your life. I know that you were a part of a corporate job as well, a typical 9 to 5 as an investment banker. What does that story tell about you? How easy or difficult was it to quit the every month income that ties you to a lot of security in life, leaving that comfort zone and be like, no, I'm sorry, this is not what I want to do, even though it's paying my bills, even though I'm able to get and live the lifestyle maybe perhaps that you always wanted to. From there to then quitting and then parallelly building your platform. Today's episode is all about building wealth, and that starts with understanding your numbers. Zoho's Finance Suite makes that simple. Whether you're tracking expenses, analyzing cash flow, managing clients, or preparing for tax season, Zoho integrates all your financial tools into one easy-to-use system. So while you focus on growing your wealth, Zoho handles the backend with accuracy and automation. Check out zoho.com to know more.
Oh my God. It was very, very difficult, because one of the reasons why I went into like finance and banking anyways is because I thought it would provide me with the security that I didn't have when I was growing up. Because even though my mum worked really hard as a nurse, in the UK in particular, you don't get paid very much for being like a medical professional. So I was like, okay, if I go into a high paying job and I have a consistent paycheck that is, decent enough for me to live, then I have that security. So mentally speaking, then having to leave that security was a bit like, oof, this is not what I saw for myself. However, in terms of like the investments and stuff like you mentioned, one of the things I made sure that I did was that I had passive income coming in, because that would provide me with a level of security that, you know what, I may not have a big paycheck coming in, but if I have some rental income coming in or different investments coming in that, you know, can help to at least cover the expenses I need to live, then that will make it easier. So even though for me, I'm like generally, even though I like investing, I'm genuinely like a risk averse person, there are certain things that you can put in place to make you feel more comfortable to take bigger risks. So a lot of the time people see certain things that I've done and they're like, oh my God, that was such a huge risk. But behind it, there is like a systems in place to make sure that I'm actually comfortable to take that risk.
Absolutely. And this also comes with the fact that you talked about passive income. And many don't understand that concept, or perhaps it's still a lot of ambiguity as to how do you make passive income. I wouldn't get into the nitty-gritties of how you make passive income, but help us walk us through why passive income. Because a lot of young women or men out there are running behind FOMOs, are running behind social validation, which kind of leads them to either not think about investment or think that whatever they are making is too less. And how do you then talk about investing? Because at the end of what you get as a paycheck is then all gone to live up the life perhaps that you see on social media. So talk about that a bit in this generation.
Oh my God, so many good points there. So just to quickly just put it out there. So there's active income and there's passive income. So your active income is anything that you have to proactively do to receive income. So like showing up for a job is active income. If you're a freelancer, for example, that's active income. If you're an entrepreneur, you're building a business and you earn money from that, that's active income. The passive income is the money that you're able to earn without doing anything in the moment. So you can earn it while you're sleeping, for example. It doesn't mean that you may not have to do stuff first to get it. So let's say, for example, if you're a landlord, right, going through the whole process of acquiring property is an active process. You have to do stuff. But once you have your tenant in there, especially if it's like a long-term rental, then that income that comes in from your tenant, that's passive income, right? And I think it's super important. The whole, based off of what you were saying, what you want to do is be taking your active income and putting it into different assets that allows you to generate passive income, because that's how you start building wealth, right? Wealth isn't about the money that you actively earn. That's about looking rich and being rich. And like you're saying, like a lot of young people get swept up into that. They're chasing status, right? They're chasing status. They want to be seen and perceived in a certain way. And so they spend all of their money and they transfer that into status. Whereas when you're building passive income, you're taking your money and you're transferring it into wealth, and that wealth generates passive income. So yeah.
Beautifully explained. Thank you, Lamide. I think we all should take notes and points here, because it's important to understand that social validation is one thing and building wealth is one, because there is always a difference between being rich and being wealthy.
Exactly.
So I think a lot of you and a lot of us should get into the habit of not chasing status, not chasing the rich, but building wealth for ourselves. Which brings me to my next question. It's always about how you go to different parts of the world. What made you make that push? I know you came to Dubai after reading where you come from and what you do. You came here because of the tax-free income that you can make, right? But then you put the ball down and got back to South Africa. How was that transition? Why was that transition? And why do you think it was important for you as an entrepreneur, from the perspective of leaving your 9 to 5 and building that entrepreneur life for yourself?
Yeah. So I think for me, growing up, I didn't really move very far, like away from like what. So I grew up somewhere. My mom worked like a 5-minute bus journey, like a hospital. My school was like a 10-minute walking distance. My church was maybe like 20 minutes on the bus. So I grew up very much, my mind wasn't expansive. I just knew the borders of, the jurisdiction that I was in, and that was it. And I think when I started looking at like, okay, what about a borderless life, was when as soon as I would cross certain borders. So for example, as you were saying, like when I went to private school and now I was traveling, an hour and a half to get to school, and I'm going into different boroughs that are far from mine, it started to open up my mind a lot. And I was just like, wow, I'm actually able to learn so much more by like transcending borders. And so when I was also watching YouTube. I used to love YouTube because, sometimes you may not have the money to travel, but then watching other people do it, you can still kind of get inspired, right? Yeah. So I had one of, who's a friend now, someone who I was watching, and she was actually building a villa in Bali at the time. And I was like, oh my God, like she's almost my age. She's building a villa from scratch in Bali. Like, that's crazy. Like, how did she even get the concept to do that? But just seeing that made me think, you know what, why is it that everything that I know is like London, 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 London? Why have I not even thought about pursuing life outside of London? I even had the opportunity to apply to some schools in America, and I was like, no, I can't see myself going to America. Like, why would I do that? Like, all of my family is here. But then as I was growing up, I was like, there is a whole world out there, and there are so many different opportunities out there. And sometimes for what you want to do, for what you want to build, the current country that you're in may not facilitate that, right? Different countries have different specialities and different just ability to grow different things. Like, it's different countries have different environments, and that might facilitate what you want to do better. Like, the place that you're in may not be the perfect place for you. And so that was one of the things that I noticed as I was getting older. Like, you know what? Like, if I want to buy a mansion, for example, for £500,000, the UK is not the place for that. You're not going to be able to get anything for that. But actually, if you take that same amount of money and you go to a different jurisdiction, you might be able to get a mega mansion, right? And that's just a little example, but it applies to all of the different areas of life. And so that's where my mind just started opening up. Like, why not just check this out? Like, why not this? Why not that? And I think especially when you're young as well, like, why not just take advantage of the fact that you're probably never going to be this like liability light again? So like, why not do it?
Yes, absolutely. Because you talked about liability, a lot of them have to also realize that there is a fraction of what you bring and give up building, having a child, pet, partner, family. Yes, that is a differentiating factor of how liability versus your assets are differentiated. So very good point there. And we definitely want to touch upon the fact that you are now managing multiple countries. Your business is in multiple countries. You mentioned in the beginning about systems and tech. Can you let us know what those systems are, just for our viewers to understand that it's not always about instincts. It's not always about just, following one tip from somewhere and then being absolutely sure that this will work for you. Let us know what is that holding ground of systems, of techs, of maybe mentors that really supports you in what you do and helps you grow.
Yeah, so I think that especially if you want to be like, moving around, or you're trying to grow a business, or you're managing multiple things, you absolutely need systems to make it easier, because also you're also wanting to preserve your brain energy and your brain capacity for the things that are important. And if you're getting bogged down with like admin stuff or just little things that can be just packaged away into a system so that, other people can help you, or even like technology can help you. But also, like you said, absolutely accountability partners, mentors, masterminds, books, like any resource that I can get to help to fill me up, I definitely use.
Yeah, books, mentors, definitely look out for. Since we're talking about tech systems, AI is no longer a term that was used to describe how the future will look like. We are now in the future that once was talked about. It's the present. So let us know what is reshaping the world of finance, wealth management, space. How is AI riding this, or are we riding the AI in this?
Oh my God, this is a very good question. I think that when it comes to AI, I think it's interesting because there's so many different facets of the conversation. And I think that, well, in terms of the world of wealth management, there is a lot of conversation about, for example, being a financial advisor. Does it actually need to be a person, or could you actually just have an AI to help do that? But I think that there are things that AI will definitely cover. And I think that a lot of those stuff are things that can be systemized, but there's always going to be a human element that is needed. Like, even like if you're calling, for example, like your customer service line, and sometimes AI can help you, but it gets to a point where you're like, I just need to speak to someone. So I think that it's gonna shape things a lot, and hopefully even just like being able to go into like some sort of let's say like a ChatGPT, for example, and just ask it about, how do I start getting started with investing, or what is a stock, what is a bond, all of these sort of things, like that's more easily accessible. And it can also, translate these things into a way that people can understand, because it even speaks different languages, all of that stuff, right? So technically we should be getting helped and enabled. But I think the unfortunate consequence would be that some people may lose some jobs. But I think there will always be a human element that we need as humans. And I think that part will remain.
Absolutely. Since you talked about human element in the space of AI, everyone's now talking about how experience is the new currency. Every brand, entrepreneur, business should just not focus themselves on automation and AI. Well, yes, that's a need, because you can't do mundane tasks and spend a lot of hours doing that.
Exactly.
Perhaps help and provide your customers by creating that experience for the brand, because that's what they're going to at the end take it back with them. Which also lets me talk about how today's generation thinks that AI is going to take away their jobs. So there is talent, but there are fewer opportunities, or perhaps vice versa in certain markets. There are opportunities, but fewer talent. How are we building that gap? What is it that you think helps us bridge it?
Ooh, I think what's important is that people are reskilling to do the things that AI will take away. Like we're saying, right? At the end of the day, I remember when I first started university, tech was a big thing, but we didn't really understand it. But people were encouraging people, study computing, study software engineering, study, take all these AI courses. I remember I think it's called Code First Girls. I don't know. There were so many things that were going on to help people reskill into, what is going to be complementary to what is going on in the world. And I think that's going to be the most important thing. And the good thing is you can actually use AI to teach you how to, better use AI. So I think that what's going to happen is the opportunities are going to flow to the people who their jobs can't be replaced by AI, or even better, the people who are able to leverage AI to do whatever it is that they are doing better. Because at the end of the day, the AI and the software is only as good as the person who is using it, right? So those who are able to fully take advantage of it, those are the people who are going to get the opportunities. So in terms of bridging that gap, I would definitely encourage people to reskill yourself to make sure that you are working alongside AI, because at the end of the day, that's going to be the future. And we are in the future, as you were saying.
Absolutely. We are in the future. So talking about mindsets, a lot of us in their late 20s, early 30s believe, I still have time. This is the time to perhaps live the dreams, the status that I once thought my job would give me and the money that I make would give me. But this generational wealth gap, that it's too early. I still have time. Why do I have to step into this now? Or maybe she's one of the girls who's got into the space and just gotten lucky to, be there and get this opportunity. Can you break that misconception for us, Lamide?
Oof, my God. I think that, as they say, one of is it the seventh or the eighth? How many wonders of the world are there? Seven. So the eighth wonder of the world is compounding and compound interest. I think maybe it was Albert Einstein who said something like that. And when it comes to that, when it comes to compounding, compound interest, compounding time is your best friend. Time is literally your best friend. It is the thing that allows you to, only have invested a couple of thousands in your early 20s and then be in your 60s and have millions, right? Because you have time that is allowing what you have invested to compound. And so the idea that I still have time, well, actually you're losing time. And in that time that you could have, and you don't have to do things like crazy, right? Even if it comes to investing, nobody's saying you have to be like a part of the FIRE movement where they're like, every single thing I earn is straight. You don't have to do that, but just putting a little bit away and allowing time to do what it does, that is what really makes the difference in terms of building generational wealth. Because you have to think about it as well, right? If you're building generational wealth, it takes generations. So every generation, which is usually they say as like 10 years, right? Every generation that you skip because you think that you have time, you're allowing less time for what you are building to compound. And then like at one point do you say, actually crap, like so much time has been wasted, right? And I think people do get to that point. Is like they go from YOLO, I have so much time or whatever, to like, oh my God, I've done nothing with my life. Whereas you could actually have complemented the two, where you're still enjoying life, but you're still building for your future. And because obviously wealth is also holistic. It's not just about money. Of course, it's about quality of life as well and enjoying it. But if you squander everything away, you will get to a point like a lot of people get to, where it's like their pension age and they're in pension poverty because you thought you had time and you actually realized time moves very, very quickly,
fast.
you know? So, yeah.
Yes, and it's said, right? Time is money. So there is a reason why someone said this long, long, long ago.
Exactly.
Coming to my last question, Lamide, leave us with one thought or one thing that changed the game for you.
Oh my God. Wow. Ooh. I would say that one thought that has changed the game for me is that you have to become the person first, because I'm someone who likes to be a big goal setter and I like to set big goals. I want to be wealthy. I want to be this. I want to be that. But the only way that you ensure that you achieve those goals is if you become the person. So if you say, for example, you want to be wealthy, what does a wealthy person do with their year? What does a wealthy person do with their month? What does a wealthy person do with their week, with their day? How does a wealthy person manage their money? If you start acting in the way and you become first, then the goals that you want are inevitable. So whatever it is that you're kind of chasing, that you want to do, that you want to be, think about, who do I need to be? And people think that they're going to become this person when they achieve the goal. No, you become the person now, and that's what leads you to achieving the goal. So that's what I would leave them with.
Thank you so much, Lamide. I think I'm taking a lot back from here. We're talking about long-term financial independence. We're talking about wealth building. And also the most important part, we're saying that generation wealth is built over generation, guys. I want you to note that. So give yourself that time. Give yourself the systems, the tech, the mentors that you need in life. And all you need is some money to put aside to build that wealth for yourself. Yes. We see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, Lamide, for having us.
Thank you.